Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Marathon Lead Generation and Conversion for Investors with your MAPS coach, Richard Schulman. Please note this webinar is being recorded and you will automatically receive the webinar recording. If you have questions for your coach, please type them into the questions box located in your webinar taskbar. Following the webinar, if you have any questions about today's coaching call or coaching program, please email us at fasttrack@kw.com. All right, that's all from me, Richard. You can go ahead and take it away. Also, we cannot see your PowerPoint at this time.
Hey, Jasmine,
Yes.
can you see my screen?
Yes, but we can't see the PowerPoint.
Oh, I'm gonna switch to the PowerPoint in a second. I wanted to start with this.
Okay, great. Well,
Yeah.
go ahead and take it away.
All right, thanks. Sorry, it took me a second to switch over. Hey guys, good morning. Welcome to Marathon Lead Generation and Conversion for Investment Properties. I'm really excited about this class because I think this is such an underutilized and such an enormous opportunity for us realtors. So I want to make this really conversational because this is a very broad topic and you guys are all over the country and you guys have all sorts of different investment markets and questions. So please engage in this conversation because I know what I do here in my market, but I'm guessing it's probably different from your market. So there's definitely a common thread of what we can do and a baseline of what we can do, but definitely jump in with questions. So if you've never done a GoToWebinar before, on the bottom right, there's a question panel, and then no one can see the questions, just me. So if you're worried it's a dumb question, don't worry, only I will see it. There are some, but mostly not. Mostly the questions are the fact that we work in different markets and we maybe have different terms for things, or we may have different ways of approaching something. But I want to definitely engage you guys so we can have a lot of positive benefit from this class. Now, I'll give you a quick overview. What I wanted to do today was really go through the cash flow calculator. It's definitely the most boring thing that we do, but if you can really navigate your way through this calculator, then you can really get a good benefit out of working investment properties. So let me just know, pop in the question tab for now. Let me know if you have actively sold, more than just a couple of investment properties, right? Let's say that you've done more than just accidentally sell a couple of rental properties. Anyone have any experience? All right, Robin says it's her focus. Heidi, yeah, you guys will get a copy of this. What I would prefer that you do, Heidi, is I would prefer that you actually build it yourself because I'm going to show you. This is the one I've shared with the team, and I'll show you where they've actually overwritten some of the fields. I'd like for you guys to really have a good sense of how we do this. So how to build your own so you understand what's going on. All right, so a few of you have been selling property non-accidentally for investment properties, so that's great. What I want to do is kind of give a quick overview. If you've started on the Kajabi, you've already seen this. The reason I do this is because I accidentally got into selling investment property. And in 2006, I was sitting at my desk at a different company, and the guy next to me, who was a new agent at that time as well, said, "Do you sell land?" And me, having never sold a piece of land before, said, "Of course. Why wouldn't I? I sell a lot of land." And he gave me a referral for a land seller. And in 2007, when the real estate market was sort of not doing so hot, I sold triple what I did the year before, and I sold about 30 properties, primarily parcels of land in a neighborhood about an hour north where there was a lot of land transactions. I became a go-to for many people for land, and I learned quite a bit about it. What I realized then was selling investment property was non-emotional, which is great for me because I'm more of a numbers person. But I realized it's something that you can make very streamlined and efficient, right? What do I mean by that? Well, I sold probably 20 parcels of land in a city I had never been to before that I didn't really know about. Now, I learned everything I needed to know about it to do the land brokerage, and I actually hired a local partner who could give me some of the color. But at the end of the day, I didn't have to tour properties on the weekends. It's just there. You just go drive right by. So that was that. And then in 2008, when the foreclosure mess came about, I realized how easy it was to sell rental properties. So there was condos in neighborhoods I worked that went from $350,000 to $150,000, and I would make email lists and pound them out to everyone I knew and say, hey, this property is great, and I would give them an early version of this cash flow calculator. I would say, hey, you can buy this property. It's $200,000 less than it was a year ago, and it's producing this crazy return. And I would sell lots of property to people without showing them a whole lot. I had clients who would buy property sight unseen who would maybe at some point go to it. Sometimes they would just have an inspection done. Man, that's easy. There's no weekends. There's no nights. It's real simple. It's more of a business, right? I want to run a business. So that's the background. Who here of the people on the call, who here has not really ever sold a rental property, but they're looking to add it to their sales portfolio? And who just is totally opposed to using the question tab whatsoever? All right, so let's keep going. All right, so what I wanted to do, what I really wanted to cover today was I wanted to go through the cash flow calculator top to bottom. Thank you, Stacy. I wanted to go through the cash flow calculator top to bottom. To me, it makes a lot of sense. I did venture capital for a summer. I had to use Excel like 8 hours a day for 3 months. I've always been more of a numbers person than this is the best kitchen person. So I always thought about things more in these terms. If you've never done this before, you have to understand that the cost side of things, which is, can you guys see my mouse? Let me know. You can see the mouse correctly? Like that's all coming up, right? Okay, thanks, Ryan. All right, perfect, yeah. Now everyone can use the question tab. Everything from here up is stuff that you have to do anyways in real estate. So people see this sheet and they get real confused and they get real overwhelmed and they shut down. And I have really sharp agents who just freeze. Everything above that blue box is stuff that you have to calculate if your client's going to buy a house, right? The only thing we're layering on at the bottom here is the rent and profit numbers, right? All right. So let's jump in. Who's bored so far? All right, I'm going to do everything over again, square by square, so you can see it. I'm going to share a live copy of this that will have all the formulas. I would prefer if you built your own, and then next time we talk, I'm going to show you a much more advanced one that I have. If you're working with more complex properties, or you just want to go through something even more complex than this, it's got even different colored boxes for different things. Very fancy. All right, purchase price. Let's change this to $1 million. Right? Who here is working in the, everyone type in your average rental property price per unit, if you wouldn't mind. I would say here in the Los Angeles area, apartment units are probably $250,000 to $300,000, $250,000 to $300,000. So for $1 million, you could get a fourplex in Los Angeles in a C plus, B minus area. I know some of you are working much better price ranges than that. Now, someone has written over almost every field here for me, so I want to show you how we do this. So the down payment, of course, is just a function of the percent down, which is here. So I'm going to overwrite that, and I'm going to do this. See, 1 million times this. And I always have this expressed as a decimal. So I'm going to go through and manually redo each box. Alex Weaver's working $80,000 properties, $80,000 per unit. Alex, that's got to be, when I hear those numbers, Alex, I've got to think that you can sell a lot of rental properties because you've got to know a lot of people who can throw down $80,000. I'm assuming that's one. So a three unit for $240. You've got to know a lot of people who can do that. And if you're putting it in, put in your city or area so I can learn where you guys are. All right, additional capital or remodeling costs. This is blank right now. Let's just make it $15,000. Now that $15,000 is going to carry down. The only number it affects is it's going to affect your rate of return down here. So you can see it factors that, and I'll get to that later on. Oh, David, yes, I saw you on there, David. David and I know each other. David's in the San Francisco office. Probably the only place more expensive than Los Angeles, so. So, all right, so we're going to add the $15,000 in there. That only affects the rate of return, right? So if you're buying a heavy fixer, just watch this 1.46 rate of return. That's going to change, by the way. If there's no capital to be spent, and say it's a remodeled property, that number goes up. If If it's a heavy fixer, that number goes down, right? Now, it's a small number still relative to the down payment, so it's not going to impact it dramatically. Let's say I had to do a huge remodel on this property, it's going to crush my cash flow, right, as a percent of down payment, because the rate of return is based on the cash I put up. The cash I put up is these two numbers combined, right? So in my market, I find that when we're selling an average 50s, 60s, 70s property, we probably have about 15K in non-cosmetic remodels. If it's a cosmetic remodel, it's going to really impact the rent. And so I would count that not as a capital cost, but as a cash flow expense. Ryan asks, does additional capital remodeling cost vary by market? Yeah, absolutely. In LA here, probably in San Francisco where David is, we have a lot of older properties. Older properties are more maintenance heavy. I know in places like Indianapolis where Alex Weaver is that you have snow, so you probably have roofs that last not as long. Like our roofs will last 30 to 40 years. I'm guessing you're less than that. I'm guessing your weather will impact the capital expenses that you have. To me, $15,000 on a fourplex means that I'm probably going to put in a new roof, or that'll pay for new plumbing or one major item, and that's my estimate from what I see. If I know the property is really dilapidated, I'll put in a much larger number. And some of these are specifically going to be rehab projects, right? The loan amount is automatically calculated, right? The loan amount is calculated by subtracting from the purchase price, taking out the down payment. So it's $750. Simple. Everyone with me so far? So simple so far. Now we're going to calculate the mortgage interest. You can see again, someone wrote over this. So I copied this from the one I share with the team, and there's already like 3 mistakes in 6 cells. So we're going to redo it. The interest is calculated very simply over here, which is the interest rate, which we input, multiplied by the loan amount, divided by 12, and it needs to be expressed as a decimal. So that $28,1250 is your interest payment. Now, I prefer to use an interest-only calculation, and we'll get to that in a second. This is the interest-only portion. I'm actually going to correct that for you guys. Interest-only portion of the calculation. All right. I'm very excited to say 12 minutes into this, no one's logged off the call yet, so thanks, guys. The goal of this, by the way, what we're going to do, and by the way, I can do these in about 45 seconds. I hope that you'll be able to pretty soon as well. If I see a rental property that I really like, I'll punch out one of these. I'll cut and paste just this section here. Well, I won't do that part. I'll cut and paste this section, Control-C, and I'll drop that right into an email. When I drop that into an email, I can forward it off to my clients. That's the goal of today, is to learn how to make one of these to forward to your clients. Your clients like this because it gives them, no matter who they are, the answer. If they're a high D, like me, I don't care about all of this nonsense up top. I just want to know in red, what's my rate of return, what's my monthly profit. If they're a C, they can see everything in here, right? And if they're an I, they may not be buying rental property in the first place. So, all right, a little disc joke for you guys. Management fee, I don't recommend using a manager to my clients for 2 reasons. Oh, and Heidi, the cash flow is right here. Monthly profit, line 21. We'll get to that. I don't use a management fee because 2 things. One, I don't think that your average person buying a 4-unit or less needs a manager. I find that they're really financially inefficient. They also crush your cash flow. So I think your average person can manage a 4-unit. Now, if they're buying lots and lots and lots of properties, that's different. But for now, let's leave it blank. If you wanted to do one, you would make management just an expense, because what I have this section set up to do is this section sums all the expenses. So 5640 is the sum of the expenses, including the mortgage. I would just say management is 4% of the rents, and the monthly rents are down here. So I'll leave it in for now. So 4% of the monthly rent's $261 for management. To me, that seems like way too much to spend to manage a 4-unit, right? And obviously, this is all based on the amount of rent that you're receiving. So, that fee will vary. Now, taxes, this is going to vary a lot depending on where you guys are. So this is what taxes are for California. In California, you pay 1.25% of the property value. That's split into 2 payments. So that's good for at least me and David. We express that though as a monthly cost. So even if your taxes are due annually or biannually, expressed as a monthly cost. Figure out what your tax rate is. I know Texas, I think, is like 2.5%, but put that number in. All you would do is change this. So when I have 0.0125 is a 1.25% tax rate. It's multiplied by B5, which is the purchase price, and then divided by 12 months. All right, insurance. Insurance is also going to vary by area. I'm going to say for a 4-unit, I know I have some notes over here, but I'm going to say just for fun, we'll do $150 a month. For insurance, that's a monthly. Again, all of our expenses should be set as monthly. HOA dues, if it's a condo or has an HOA, or any repairs and maintenance costs. I find that in our market, in the Los Angeles market, we pay for water as the landlord. We also are going to be covering any of the maintenance. I'm sure that's the same for all of you. The utilities, I'm sure, vary. Again, Alex Weaver in Indianapolis, I'm sure your snow removal is much higher than ours, but maybe your lawn budget is lower. So I know from experience that $800 per month for a 4-unit is a reasonable expense budget for maintenance, including long-term maintenance, including recurring maintenance, pest control, garden service. We don't really have a lot of gardening here in Los Angeles anymore. We stopped planting things, so it's really just more of a quick cleanup. And that would include the water bill. Our gas costs are pretty cheap, and we only pay for heating and hot water, typically. The tenants are going to pay their own gas and their own electric outside of the hot water. And some of them will pay their own hot water. So 800 is a robust number for that. This is probably the one thing you're going to have to most figure out about your own market, is what are your expenses, because that will change your number. The principal number, next week I'll show you how to do a formula for this. It's a little complicated in Google Docs. But for now, I'm going to approximate it. It's probably about $850 a month. But like I said, I'm going to calculate it. We'll go through the math with and without it. You would just pull that number straight from a mortgage calculator, right? You can go online and find a mortgage calculator. I use the first month's one, and that should be close enough. So we'll leave that in there for just a second. We can see how it varies. So Section 1, we covered down payment and cash out of pocket. Section 2 is expenses. Right now, I'm learning that this building cost me about $6,000 per month to operate. Now, some of that, the $850, is principal. If it was interest only, it would cost me about $5,000 a month to operate. What that should tell you is that depending on your market, that if you're looking at a property, you need to have at least about $5,500 to $6,000 a month in gross income to break even on a $1 million property. Now, if you're looking at a $100,000 property, just divide it by 10, right? Or adjust the numbers. But that's a good rough metric. If you're just scrolling through income properties, I'm going to look at a property. A lot of our properties are $1 million to $1.5 million for our small investment properties. I know that I need to be hitting about $600 per $100,000 to break even on an amortized loan. Does everyone get that? It's not the answer. It's not the only thing we look at. But if I'm just scanning through properties or quickly looking at emails I'm getting with property pitches, if I'm not hitting that $600 per $100,000, I'm really not interested, right? Now, if I can get more than that, if I see the rent is $7,000 per $100,000 or $700 per $100,000, I know I've got something that makes some money on my hands, right? Any questions? All right, good. Here's the monthly rent. Now, the monthly rent is going to be determined by what you guys put into your rent. In Los Angeles, we have rent control. We have expanding rent control in California. I don't believe that most of you do. San Francisco, I know, does. But so we might want to include the next rental raise in the rent. But let's say for fun we've got that magical $7,000 per million or $700 per $100,000. And we'll just put that in there. Now, if you are going to be doing something with rental growth, or let me get to that in a second, actually, but let's just manually input the $7,000. That yields a monthly profit of $1,065. So I think that's the number you're looking for, Heidi. Is that correct? All right, perfect. And not only have we not lost anyone, we've actually gained one person, so it's good. All right, and this is the most boring of all the classes, guys. The rest of them are a little more exciting than this. but I need you guys to really just master this material so we can do the next thing. Here's the quick pitch. We'll work on this a little bit more today, and we'll work on this next time as well. The quick pitch is I can say, hey, Heidi, I've got a property that will make you $1,000 a month of profit. Are you interested in that? Right? That's a nice pitch. And that's a great deal on a property for someone because they're like, oh, I would like $1,000 free cash flow. That does sound nice, right? So that's the beginning of our pitch. Now, if we do this interest only, which is my preference, not only as a broker, but also as personally as an owner and investor in real estate, is what happens if I get an interest-only loan, a non-amortized loan? Well, all of a sudden, my cash flow is now $2,000 a month. And you know what? I would personally and professionally rather take $2,000 a month off the table and allow me to reinvest that than to be paying off my loan. When you pay off your loan, you are reinvesting your money on a long term at this interest rate. You guys get that? When you're amortizing the loan, listen, by the way, you should amortize your loans like your primary. Over time, you eventually need to amortize loans. If you're buying one or two small rental properties, I think that you should be looking at interest only. Now, some of the stuff we talk about is based on amortization. A lot of your more risk-averse clients will be more interested in amortization because they're not looking at huge cash flow. They're looking at just doing a small one-off. That's fine. For me, I would take the cash flow today. If I sent you an email, right, and said, hey, Heidi, Heidi, sorry to pick on you, but you're the most recent name in the text box here. Heidi, I've got a property for you. It's in a neighborhood that you would probably like. I would tell you the neighborhood if you were here and you knew it. I'd say, oh, Heidi, I have a great property. It's in South LA. It's a growing area. There's 2 new train lines there, and it's generating about $2,000 a month of profit. Are you interested? Are you saying no to that, Heidi? Right? Are your clients saying no to that? If they say no, it's great, no problem. The people who say yes to that are going to be very excited by this property, right? Because that's a lot of money coming in. That's a lot of profit, and that's not, by the way, not a reasonable amount of profit. I would say, I'll play the numbers a little bit. I would say that you could, in our market, find something like this. You could probably find something between 6.5%, 7.5% return, which is pretty good. You're talking about $1,500 a month in profit after expenses. You're talking $20,000 a year in profit, and you own the property. Now let's punch back into the amortization just to see something. So everyone just take a mental image of these pictures. Heidi, you didn't respond to me if you want to buy that property. I'd like to tell you something. So here is the math with the amortization. Heidi will take it. No one else jumped in to buy it. It's a great deal, guys. That's what I should do, webinars and sell properties to realtors. It'd be great business. So here, when we put in the principal back in, obviously your profit goes down quite a bit. What happens is your rate of return goes down, but your return from principal reduction goes up. Your combined rate of return stays the same, right? I'll show you real quick. Watch the combined rate of return. It stays the same. Your rate of return goes down, but then your principal reduction goes up. So if someone says, well, I'm only getting a 3.74% return, yes, that is a little low. I don't think that you're going to have a lot of clients dying for that property. But you can tell them, listen, you're making a profit of $800 a month, and you're paying down your loan at $800 a month. It's not bad, right? Long term, these are very good things. Now, let me show you one other thing here. Now, what you can do is if you're in an area that's growing or you're in a rent-controlled property where you have future growth possible. So I've just made a copy of this. Oh, it's moved all my numbers around. All right, let's not do that then. I don't know why I moved all the numbers around. Okay, I'm just going to change this. I would cut and paste this and into a new field. And let's say that I know that next year I can get 3% rent growth. Look what happens to my rate of returns. It goes up quite a bunch. Right? Now, so I think if you're in an area with rent control, you have sort of built-in returns. If you're in an area that's growing or has predictable growth in rent, then you can do this. I would be very cautious about promising predictable growth in rent. But if you feel comfortable knowing the market, then you can add that in. What happens if I want to run this out for 5 years? Now, I could give them a snapshot of each return. Because I think investors sometimes look at year one and say, oh, it's 7% is not enough. It's not what I'm looking for. Now I have 1, 2, 3. Well, that's year 2, year 3, year 4. Here's year 5. Look at that return, right? We've only raised rents from originally $67.50. We've gotten 3% annually, and we've gone all the way to an 11% return. So it's important to also keep your investors focused not on day 1, but also year 3, year 5, year 7. The really beautiful thing about rental properties, especially when you compare to stocks, is that they have nice, generally predictable growth curves, right? Now, I can't predict what's going to happen in year 2, 3, and 4 for any of your properties, but I can tell you if you look at the history of real estate, that with these small, measurable increases, they really have tremendous growth potential, especially on your bottom line. Does that make sense? So a quick question we had here. Principal reduction is only the return from money you're paying down on the mortgage. Cash flow is only the money that you're putting in your pocket every month. Now, both of those, by the way, talk to your accountant, of course, don't give tax advice. Both of those are taxable, by the way. Both of those the government counts as profit. You can only spend one today, though, right? Now, if you go to refinance the property or cash out or sell the property, then you're going to be able to realize those principal reduction gains. So what I want you to do, so we actually timed that pretty well, guys. Let me know quickly if you have any questions. What I want you to do is be able to put this together, and I want you to be able to put this together to your clients. So find a property in your area that makes sense, adjust the numbers, go back and rewatch the video if you need to. It's no problem. It's a lot of stuff we covered. Put this together to your clients. All you need is an MLS link, this spreadsheet, and say, hey, Heidi, I've got this incredible property. It's in this neighborhood that I like because of these 3 reasons. Like I mentioned, it's in a neighborhood in LA with 2 new train lines and a new bus service, and et cetera, et cetera. And today it's producing a 7% return. Are you interested in learning more? If you sent that to your entire database, you would get a lot of excitement and interest. If you sent that to just your investors, you get a lot of excitement and interest. What I want you to do, the main part of the class, is to get this out to your entire database, not just your investors. A couple of you said your investment-focused brokers. Get this to everyone you know, because you're going to find that your average client friend actually wants to buy rental property, and more of them than you know can afford to buy rental property, right? So we'll talk more next time about how we get them to buy rental property. We'll talk more about where do we get funds from. In 2 minutes, my lender is coming here, and I'm going to be refinancing 3 properties, pulling out cash so I can reinvest them in other properties. So we'll talk about that, how we do that. If you have any questions, let me know. I'm going to send out a link to this page later today. What I want you guys to do is cut and paste this whole thing, right? Just cut and paste the whole thing like this. We can copy it, actually, and put it into a new Google document. And you just go to New, Spreadsheet. It'll pop up a new spreadsheet, and save your own. That way we're not going to be overwriting each other. Make sure that you don't overwrite columns with functions, right? This is a function. You never enter the loan amount, right? All right, so guys, that wraps for today. If you have questions, let me know. We have a Facebook group called Marathon Lead Generation and Conversion. It's for the entire lead generation platform. So go ahead in there. If you have questions, let me know. I will make sure that this gets emailed to all of you today. I'm going to send you a shareable link, and I'll get that out to you by email this morning. Thanks, guys, for being on here. If you have any questions, just shoot me an email. I'll type my email here real quick so you can see it. And I'll leave that on here so you'll get that with your email. So thanks, guys, a lot. Really appreciate your time. I'll talk to you soon.